As a kind of a temperature check on our culture, all you have to do sometimes is look at how crazy things have gotten. And this isn't we don't want to be bogged down and discouraged, but it's a reality check. Yesterday, when I was headed to the gym, before that I went at Lowe's and I got some wood because there's some picnic table falling apart. And I'll just replace some of the boards because they're rotting on some of those picnic tables. But I was at Lowe's and I was asking somebody if they could help me with the checkout because one of the boards didn't have a barcode on it. And the young man who came to me, I didn't see him first. I first smelled women's perfume. And then it was a man who had makeup on, and I'm going to say honestly, it was disgusting. I actually shuddered inside because it felt so weird. Where you just feel something's wrong. Because it was a man, but kind of was dressed like a man, but trying to bring himself forth as a woman. This shows how disastrous our society has become. If you want evidence of how disturbing our culture is, there it is. Now, I don't know how responsible that individual young man is. Most people who have a gender dysphoria where they think they are they think they're a man when they're actually a woman, or they think they're a woman when they're actually a man. That's usually a psychological disorder. And the people who are more at fault are the people who encourage them to do that. The people who encourage them to live a lie like that. And which ends up destroying them, and there's a very high suicide rate with people like that, and that usually makes it worse because they'll never find what they think they're looking for, because they actually need some kind of psychological help or healing. But my reaction is a reaction that it's not me being mean. I didn't show it, of course, and I thanked him for helping me, and etc., because I don't know him, I don't know what he's responsible for, but in my reaction, there's nothing wrong with it. I didn't show it, like I said, but I internally could just feel it. And as I was walking away, I just had to, shudder, because that is what God gives us in our souls to know that there's something off. Our society is not meant to be the way it is. God never intended that men would be confused and think that they're supposed to be women, or that women should think they're supposed to be men. That's a disorder. That's disordered. Or that men are attracted to men or women are attracted to women. That's a disorder. That one is more of an emotional disorder than a psychological disorder. That is the disorder of same-sex attraction. But all these signs in our society, of course, they've always been there. There's always been confusion. There's always been sin in history. But there are times in different cultures where it gets worse, and times where it's worse than at other times. And these symptoms are everywhere. It really started in our society very much, where it got much worse when contraception was generally accepted. And then divorce started to become more frequent. Pornography, that all contributes to it. And all those things are why abortion became accepted. Because once you open the door to one fundamental evil that's very tied with who the human person is, all these other things follow. So it's no surprise that the acceptance of living a mortally sinful homosexual lifestyle, there's no surprise that that's accepted. Once divorce had been accepted, then abortion, then contraception, it all leads to more others. And now that what we can see in front of our face, where some people are willing to say that it's not true, that a person who's a woman is in fact a man. Now, most people go along with it because it's easier to go along with it, because it's harder to resist the opposition. That if you don't agree with somebody who thinks they're a man and they're a woman, or a woman who thinks they're a man, it's easier to go along with it. So people who don't have integrity and don't believe in much of anything, it's easier to just say, yes, okay. But I myself, I'm not going to tell a woman that she's a man, or a man that he's a woman. I will not say that, because they're asking me to lie. I'm not going to tell somebody who thinks he's Napoleon that he's Napoleon. That's called insanity. We don't say that somebody who thinks they're something and they're not, clearly. We should not be expected to go with that. We need to be prepared for our death. But the rest of this world needs to be too. The rest of this world needs to be prepared for when they die, because they will be judged. They will come before Jesus. And as I said, we may not know each individual. We may not know how responsible each individual is. I don't know how responsible that young man was for whatever he was doing. I don't even know if he thought he was a woman or just was trying to partially look like a woman. I don't know. I have no idea how much he's responsible himself, but God does know. And because of that, I need to pray for him. We need to pray for others in our society. Many people are very far from being ready to meet the Lord. They're not even close to being prepared to meet God when they die. They're not even on the same page. It's not even the same room. You can't even begin to explain how far people are from meeting God. They are not prepared. So because we have access to the fullness of truth as Catholics, we are expected and we will be held more responsible. God will hold us more responsible for doing what is right. Of course, it always does depend on how much we understood, how much we truly know what is good and what is bad. As he says, much will be required of the person entrusted with much, and still more will be demanded of the person entrusted with more. We are there to be prepared, of course, ourselves to meet our Lord when we die, which all of us will. We can't trick him. We can't pretend that what is wrong that we do is not wrong. We will have to answer for it. Of course, the primary way to do that is to go to confession on a regular basis to make sure we're ready. But we also are responsible, inasmuch as we're called to help other people be prepared. And sometimes that might mean saying something to them that makes them uncomfortable. But because we made them uncomfortable, perhaps they'll start to think about what they're doing. And hopefully they'll change their life around. So we want to ask the Lord to help us always keep on our mind that we will meet him someday. And we want to be ready. But also, part of our preparedness will be if we were willing to also help others be prepared to meet their Lord and Maker.